paying their workers well, making sure they've got good benefits, following rules that will keep them safe. That's something that they cannot abide, so they just simply don't compete for project labor agreements.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Katie Britt is running for U.S. Senate here in Alabama. Right now, it's a three-way race between her, Mo Brooks, and Mike Durant. Katie Britt is another one of those folks who has also not responded to a request for to an interview request. Which, like, I don't know if these people have actually watched interviews that I've done with people that I disagree with. But I think I am a very nice guy, even if I disagree with you. I think I'm very nice to talk to, even if we disagree. All I want to know, I just want to talk to you. But they're scared. That's what I think. So what is it that makes her viable? She was chief of staff for Richard Shelby and was president of the Alabama Council of Bosses. Those connections have earned her the endorsement of several other councils of bosses, as well as the big council of bosses. But she's earned several endorsements from smaller councils of bosses, like the Council of Retail Bosses, the Council of Restaurant Bosses, the Council of Car Dealer Bosses. I mean, I'm endorsed by a used car salesman. Great. Council of Forest Bosses, Council of Farm Bosses, Council of Factory Bosses, and the Council of Construction Bosses. That list alone should scare the hell out of you if you are not a boss. But let's say it doesn't. Let's say it doesn't. Let's zero in then on the Council of Construction Bosses, the Associated Builders and Contractors. We can say that their views are at least somewhat reflective of Britt, seeing as how she told the right-wing propaganda outlet Yellowhammer News, "I am proud to have the endorsement of the Associated Builders and Contractors Alabama chapter." Okay, so I think we can establish that their views are relevant to Katie Britt. I mentioned this with Flash, but I just want to take this chance to really quickly point out the drivel that the Alabama Political Reporter said in their article about the endorsement. They said the merit shop philosophy is a belief that the free enterprise system, uninhibited by government overregulation or interference, provides the best opportunity for qualified, hardworking individuals to excel in their craft. It is a competitive way of doing business that encourages fair play, economic growth, and job creation. It is a principle which, while focusing on safety and workforce development, rewards personal initiative, skill, and drive to succeed. At the end of the day, the merit shop way of thinking creates opportunity rather than fostering entitlement. Something that the country could learn from. I mean, this is from the Alabama Political Reporter. I mean, this is supposed to be ostensibly like the Democrat thing in Alabama. The Democrat version of the news. Alabama's
liberal
MSNBC.
media.
Liberal media. Amazing. Astonishing.
I guess they just reprinted the press release, more or less.
No, they did. That's like, that wasn't in the press release.
Oh, my God.
That wasn't a quote. There was a quote from the press release, but that was the prelude to the quote in the press release.
I suspect I could probably guess who the author of the article is, but I'm just going to leave that alone. But
I have no idea, honestly. I have no idea who the author is. It's said by staff. So I don't know who is responsible for the staff articles, but if you're out there listening and you work for the Alabama Political Reporter, blink twice if you're being held hostage. I mean, my God. The Associated Builders and Contractors, though, they were founded in 1950 because the bosses thought that the workers were getting paid too much. And that's basically the whole thing. So let's talk about the next that's basically the whole thing, though. Their mission as an organization is to drive down wages for workers, to train them less and to make them less safe on the job. That's the whole thing. The primary way that they lower wages is through fighting unionization. They promote non-union construction, things like this. And we know here on this program that unionization and collective bargaining raises wages for working people. Another way that they attack wages of construction workers is through their training, if you could call it that, where the building trades unions have multi-year training programs aimed at creating a genuine professional craftsman with all the skills necessary to perform in their trade, spending more than any university system in the country, approximately $1 billion a year spent by the trade unions at no cost to the apprentice, at no cost to the government. Where the building trade unions do that and pump out thousands of trained professional craftsmen every year, the non-union ABC contractors, their training is job specific, creating workers that can only do one job without any other marketable skills. They spend next to nothing. They get government subsidies because they train people in partnerships oftentimes with local colleges. And they charge their apprentices for the honor of being trained by them. I mean, it's a scam, like we've said on the program before. But let's say that you're not convinced by this. After all, the ABC says on their About Us page that we believe the merit shop movement is a movement for the betterment of the individual, the construction industry, and the nation. So here, the ABC is saying, look, guys, this is not training workers well. This is how we better the individual. This is the way to do it. Providing them with less knowledge. And if you've been poisoned day in and day out by nonsense on TV and the radio, maybe you take the bosses at their word that they actually care about you. And that, left alone, they will actually treat you better than if you grew a backbone and stood together with your sisters and brothers on the job and demanded better. Maybe you believe that because that's what the bosses want you to think. But there's data on this. Like we can simply look at the result. So let's do that. An Illinois EPI study titled "Union Apprenticeships: The Bachelor's Degree of the Construction Industry." We talked about this on the show. A couple of months ago. But let's revisit some of that information. The labor market outcomes of union construction workers are competitive with workers with college degrees, while non-union construction workers are only on par with workers with high school diplomas, meaning that they may as well not have gotten any training at all. That's what you get from a non-union apprenticeship, is nothing. Literally freaking nothing is what you get. Where union apprenticeship programs get you the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. Union construction workers earn $58,000 per year on average, which is 46% more than non-union construction workers, $39,700 a year. 89% of union construction workers have health care, compared with just 55% of non-union construction workers. A 34% difference. Among all workers with associate degrees and bachelor's degrees, average incomes range between $48,000 to $68,000, and private health insurance coverage ranges from 84 to 90%. So we can see there that a union apprenticeship, union construction jobs, are on par with bachelor's degrees. Let's go to another study by the UC Berkeley Labor Center. We also talked about this a while back. They showed that they evaluated the effect of non-union construction jobs on the welfare system. They found that nationwide, 39% of families of construction workers are enrolled in one or more safety net program at a cost of almost $28 billion per year, and 3 times as many construction workers as all workers lack health insurance. 31% of construction workers lack health insurance compared to 10% of all workers. Nationwide, construction workers' families are overall 28% more likely than all working families to participate in one or more means-tested safety net program. These families are 36% more likely to be enrolled in Children's Medicaid and 38% more likely to be enrolled in the Earned Income Tax Credit. There's a record here. We're not simply out in the wilderness trying to just pondering our abstract ideas. That's not what's happening. We're not out on a limb. There are data out there. These different things have been tried. Different modes of production, different modes of organization have been tried, and we can look at the results. We can look at the results, and that's what the results of non-union construction bosses are. They pay workers less. They less often give workers health care, and they pay them so much less that we end up subsidizing them. Other workers end up subsidizing these bosses' low wages through our welfare programs that we give these poor workers.
And Jacob, the dark irony here is that organizations such as ABC then turn around and demonize these very same welfare programs and use that as their political rallying cry, and, of course, go on to endorse candidates such as Katie Britt and others who do the same, who run against these sort of welfare and social service programs, as meager as they are, and use that as a political cudgel. So they are creating creating a demand for these social services, which they then use as reasons to give them more power to elect them into the office, so they can then attack these same social services. It's twisted. Yeah. And the other example I have, because I was just really thinking about this morning for some whatever reason, it was on my mind, and to me it really is comparable to how the very same people who demonize abortion so much and focus on getting poor, often less literate folks convinced that abortion is this evil and they should never entertain the idea of an abortion. So they often, you'll find teenage pregnancies are covered by Medicaid. We've mentioned on this program how about half of all births in Alabama are covered by Medicaid. Mm-hmm. So you have these right-wing forces who convince people, no, you can never have an abortion, that's evil. So the people who could benefit from that option don't even consider that option. Instead, they give birth at 16, 17 when they can't afford it, or maybe they have multiple children that they can't afford, yet they have more children because abortion's not an option for them because they've been told it can't be an option.
Right.
They then rely on these very same social services that are the subject of their political campaigns that are used to divide and conquer the working class, because we know that is one of the most prevalent ways we are divided and conquered, is by demonizing people who rely on food stamps or demonizing people who are on unemployment when they create these very conditions.
Yeah. I mean, exactly right. So the Associated Builders and Contractors, long-time project, but they've been hitting it really hard recently to bring down workers' wages, is attacking project labor agreements. What are project labor agreements? We talked to Eddie Mitchell on the show about this. He is a business agent for the Ironworkers Local 477 here. But just to recap, they're agreements in which the customer, oftentimes the government, but not always, they're agreements in which the customer makes prior agreement to pay union wages and benefits, follow the higher standard for safety that unions set for the duration of the contract. Non-union contractors are allowed to bid on project labor agreements. All they've got to do is follow the rules. That's all they got. They don't have to become union. Their employees don't have to become union on all their other projects. All they've got to do for the duration of this contract is pay union wages and follow the union safety rules, which give people more money, obviously, and create more safe working conditions. Because on union work sites, I can't believe that I didn't think to bring this into to look up the numbers on this. But union work sites are significantly safer than non-union work sites. I believe that the number is something like there are 30% fewer deaths on union construction sites than non-union construction sites. I can't say that's the official number, but it's a number something like that. It's funny that I forgot to, or that I didn't think to bring that in, because I still prepped a whole lot. I was thinking yesterday about looking at the 25,000 words that I had in my Word doc and thinking how much easier being a radio show host would be if I was just like a right-wing blowhard and didn't care at all about being correct about anything.
Wow, it's like doing research is actually a little harder than just pulling it out of your ass.
Yeah. But the number is something like that.
But, I can tell you the construction unions, at least, which is what we're talking about, 19% less likely to be cited for health and safety violations, and on average had 34% fewer violations per inspection.
There we go.
And that's a pretty recent report there with Safety and Health magazine.
Yep. And so I said many times the customer of project labor agreements is the government, but that's not always the case. So the Toyota Mazda facility, actually just down the road, is a project with a project labor agreement, and Toyota, which is a non-union company, entered the PLA over the objections of the governor, actually. Governor Kay Ivey did not want them to enter a project labor agreement because she doesn't care about Alabama workers. I don't know. But why did Toyota, which is a non-union company, why did they enter a project labor agreement? Because higher wages, safer working conditions ensure a better product.
Now, they don't want their actual, folks on the line building those Toyota vehicles to join a union, but they are smart enough to know that union labor built them a better facility.
Yep. President Biden recently signed an executive order stating that all federal construction projects over $35 million would have PLAs, and the anti-worker Associated Builders and Contractors did not like that. Let's see what they had to say on Fox Business.
So President Biden signed an executive order that requires something called project labor agreements on federal construction contracts greater than $35 million. And project labor agreements result in increased costs and discourage competition for more than 87% of the construction industry. So the result of this executive order is it's going to steer contracts to unionized contractors and union labor at the expense of taxpayers. And we know that project labor agreements increase the cost of construction between 12% and 20%. So that means we'll get fewer roads, schools, bridges, and utilities that were funded through the infrastructure bill earlier this year. So this is a real lose-lose policy for taxpayers and the construction industry. Our members are furious with the administration over this, and they hope that they'll reconsider the policy, and the policy will be replaced with something that will support fair and open competition that will encourage all Americans and all construction companies to compete for this taxpayer-funded construction work.
So, Ben, give me a sense of how many non-union contractors are being essentially, put out of work by these rules. Is it a large percentage?
Well, it's hard to know exactly because the final rule hasn't come out yet on this, but we know that our members perform 50% of large-scale federal construction contracts in the last decade. So they are going to be severely impacted by this, depending on the size and scope of the contract. And that's bad news. When you have your best firms building roads, schools, and bridges, and they're not allowed to compete on that, obviously that's going to increase the cost of construction. This is another inflationary policy by the Biden administration.
Does the rule essentially create a closed shop? Are there no non-union companies allowed to bid?
Non-union companies are technically allowed to bid on project labor agreement jobs. However, the terms and conditions of project labor agreements force contractors to hire most or all of their employees from union hiring halls. They have to follow union work rules and pay into union pension and benefit programs. And non-union workers will either have to join a union or unfortunately have to pay union dues as a condition of employment. So the result of this is that non-union contractors will not compete and not participate in the competitive bidding process.
Well, there you go. He does all this like 2 minutes of crying, just absolutely bawling about project labor agreements, claiming, they raise the cost, which is not really true when you account for the fact that non-PLA projects go over budget and get behind schedule more often, talking about how it kills competition. And then at the end, after just like a simple, the most common sense question that a news anchor could ask, which is, are you saying that, like, you can't bid on PLAs? He admits it! He admits that he can bid on PLAs. He admits that non-union contractors can bid on project labor agreements exactly the same as union contractors. All they gotta do is freaking pay your workers. And you don't even have to pay your workers on all your projects, just for the one that has a project labor agreement. Just like literally for one project, pay your workers. That's the only condition of having a project labor agreement, is for one project, for this one project where you're going to be getting millions of dollars from the federal government if you are awarded the project. For this one freaking project, pay your workers, give them a pension, and follow safety rules.
Right, yeah. I think it's not a lot to ask that if taxpayers are funding a project, that the workers involved be paid a living wage, that they have benefits, that there are safety regulations in place so that not only are the workers kept safe, but the public is kept safe, both during the construction and once it's finished and we use the bridge or the road or whatever it may be. And the fact that the people who are doing this work are well-trained and know what the hell they're doing. That's not a lot to ask, and it's very low-hanging fruit. It's something that, I'll give credit to the Biden administration for doing that. And even something this modest attracts this kind of, opposition. And I couldn't help but laugh when he said something about their best firms. Best in what regard? Because it's not best in terms of the safety that you follow on the job. It's not the best in terms of the quality of workers you have with training. It's not the best in terms of how you pay people. So, is it the best because you have the highest profit margins? Is it the best because if you're the CEO, it's the best? Because I'm guessing he's not really talking about normal people who have to work for a living.
Right. Yeah, no, of course not. This is something, paying their workers well, making sure they've got good benefits, following rules that will keep them safe. That's something that they cannot abide. So they just simply don't compete for project labor agreements because they can't stand the thought of paying their workers a wage that will keep them off of welfare. Like that, the thought of doing that is so foreign and repulsive to these people that they will take their ball home and walk away sooner than they will try to apply for a project that would give them millions of dollars. And these are the people that Katie Britt is proud to have the endorsement of. So do with that information what you will. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.